Hello, everybody, and welcome to Amateur Cast, where I get in you and your replays to be casted for my entertainment and hopefully to help you improve a little bit as well. I'm your host, ZookaMan, and we're going into a PvZ. Without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our players. In the upper right-hand side of the map, Habitation Station, Alliteration, we have Slaughterhouse, or more like Slaughterhouse, as the protest player, and his opponent on the opposite side of the map, we see Baker StarCraft, or BakerSC. I'm going to assume that the StarCraft means, or the SC means StarCraft. And he's going to be our Zerg player, and he's going to be in the blue trunks, as Total Biscuit would say. So the PvZ matchup, obviously you guys can tell I've been doing a lot of TVZs because I went immediately into the TVZ matchup, but PvZ matchup. Looking at the Zerg side of things, definitely going to be probably seeing an earlier hatchery. That's really kind of in the meta right now, especially against against Forge Fast Expands. It's definitely a good thing. Sometimes you will see the pull first, like we were seeing from Baker StarCraft. Going to be going for a 10 pull, I believe, if I recall correctly. I'm just going to be going for gas. So we're going to see a little bit of an early Zergling pressure here, which might be able to do a little bit of damage depending on how our protest player reacts. If our protest player reacts accordingly, I would say probably a Forge Gateway, and then he should be fine after that. Actually, probably a Forge Gateway and then another Gateway over here, and he should probably be fine. As long as he can get his cannons up by the time that these Zerglings are out across the field, he should be perfectly fine against this. Baker StarCraft not really going to be going up onto much more than that. He's going to be forsaking his drum protection to go for the early Zerglings. So definitely going to be committing into this attack a little bit more. And the Protoss player are going to be in a little bit of a better position. Wouldn't mind seeing another pylon drop down over here just to make sure that no Zerglings are going to be able to get across the map. Definitely needs to put at least one cannon down, but besides that, he should be perfectly fine against this push. He's going to have it right here. I would prefer to see it a little bit back more, but I guess this makes more sense entirely. Baker StarCraft will be scouting the natural ramp area, and it's going to be seeing that the gateway expand is going to be going up. Force Fast Expand file, and he's going to be able to see that in all actuality. He's going to be going for a Cyrenite's core over there, which I definitely don't necessarily agree with. A pylon and a probe would have been perfectly fine. But I guess that's just going to be alright. As long as he remembers to cancel this, honestly I would say just cancel this, put out a pylon, and put the Cyberknight's core up in your main base or somewhere else, just so that it's not, so you don't have to break down, like, right now you have to break down at least a forge and maybe a gateway in order to get out of your main base, and that's just not really a good place to be. However, Baker StarCraft is going to be going up onto Roach Tech. What I'd like to see from him in response is I'd love to see a natural expansion drop down, and even to this point, a third base, because I know that my Protoss opponent, as a Zerg player, I know from what I see from my Protoss opponent that the next logical step is either A, he's going to be moving into pressure with a large number of gateway units, or B, he's going to be slaughtering, or he's going to be expanding behind this. So definitely wouldn't mind seeing him drop down an actual expansion, just because that's going to be just a better position for him to be in. It's going to be taking out the photon cannon and probably taking out the gateway here, which is just a little bit awkward entirely. He's going to be doing that to make room for his natural expansion. So we're missing a natural expansion is going to be coming up from him. Second base is going to be taken up from our third player now. Wouldn't mind seeing that third base once again, just to put him into a little bit of a advantage as far as that goes. It's going to be going up onto layer tech. Doesn't have upgrades on the field. Does have the ability to go up onto roaches if he needs to. But I shouldn't really expect to see him need to, because there's going to be any sort of mid-game push coming out from the Protoss player, because he is going to be going A, for the expansion, B, at least I think that's the expansion, B, he doesn't really have much tech that has to be dealt with. Metal Ball Boost is about halfway done at this point. We do have Gliding Constitution going to be added on for the Zerg player as well. And he's looking to be in a pretty decent position here. Wouldn't mind seeing the Zerglings move out across the map, get a little bit of scouting, one drop up to the gold, one drop to the third, one drop over to the watchtower, just to make them active and be able to scout a little bit more. Another thing to be pointed out with scouting is that there aren't really that many Overlord spreads. There's one down here, one up here in the north. But the rest of them are kind of being spread out in the base. Definitely would like to see those moved out a little bit more. Now that's kind of getting into a nitpicky sort of thing. Protoss player is not going to be going for a natural expansion. Looks like he might be saving up for that right now. Where's all his resources? Not sure exactly where his resources... Oh, he's building more zealots, is why. He is... Well, that's 200, plus the pylon is 300. So it doesn't look like he's wanting to go for an expansion here, which is kind of a little bit strange. Gonna have to kind of see what he does with that. Natural expansion is up from our Zerg player. We're going to see huge round drones come out. Very, very good. Love to see more drones. More drones are always fantastic. Especially in the early game when you're droning. Protoss players are going to be dropping down double Stargate back home off of this, which is a little bit curious. Would love to see him drop down his natural expansion here, considering that he is going to be going up onto double Stargate tech, and that is exactly what he's going to be doing. It's a little bit late for the Stargate tech, but, you know, I'm not sure exactly what to say to that. Third base is coming out from BakerSC in the gold area. Definitely a good thing to see from him. A little bit late. Would have liked to see it a little bit earlier. He probably could have taken it after the attack. But normally, as a Zerg player, you want it standard is 6 to 8 minutes for your third base. Just in general, we're going to be seeing the Hallucinated Phoenix move out across the map, get a little bit of scouting done. Is going to be seeing that the third base is up at that gold base and is going to be able to respond accordingly. We will have to see exactly what his plan is to follow up with this. But it looks like he's going to be going for the Phoenixes, which is kind of curious because he went for Hallucinated Phoenix into multiple additional Phoenixes when your opponent's going to prepare for them. I'm not sure exactly why that is going to be what he's going to be doing, but maybe he's moving out across the map to get a little bit of map control taken care of and get a few Overlords here and there. Possibly that's what we're going to be seeing from him. Hydra's Den is going to be added on here as well, so we're going to see Roach Hydra coming out. He does have his 2 evolution chambers up, and should be able to start his upgrades fairly shortly here. Of course, besides the fact that there are Phoenixes on the map to kill the Overlords, now is when the time where you want to put your Overlords back into your bases and start protecting them with the Spore Crawlers, because otherwise they're just going to get completely sniped, and that's just not a good position to be in as a Zerg player, losing a lot of supply in that regard. We are seeing a Void Ray follow-up to this from our Protoss player, which is a little bit curious. Would like to see him drop down to third base here, as he is committing to heavy tech units, and that would just kind of make it a little bit more prevalent. Would love to see an additional Spore Crawler being put down, probably in the back of the mineral line, just to make sure that that is taken care of. Could use to put a few more drones on the natural expansion, but is going to be gearing up towards a push out here with a few Zerglings, and Roaches going to be taken out as well. Gateway is going to be sacked over here, and quite a few Zealots are going to be taken to plug in the hole. Looking over here, Harvester's tab, we have 43 to 30 into here for a Zerg player, so definitely getting a good job done with his Harvesters, keeping up on his drones. Definitely could put a few more in the natural expansion once again, but the main and third base look pretty saturated. Yep, 12 out of 18, and a little bit oversaturated in the main base, but not too big of a deal. Where we see the Phoenix get a little bit more scouting out, but not really going to be able to do a whole lot more damage. We do have that +1 coming out for the air units at this point from Slaughterhouse as well. Definitely wouldn't be opposed to seeing him drop down as third base. I wouldn't be opposed to seeing him grab his mothership core, but he is going to get supply blocked actually pretty majorly up here at 68. Not a good position to be in. Zerg player coming up on to over 100 supply, so he's definitely going to be geared up for a mid-game push here. And if he does a mid-game push here with his Roaches and his Hydras, he can catch the Protoss player off guard because he doesn't really have a whole lot of units here to defend this. Pretty much he has 4 or 5 Void Rays and Zealots. That's essentially the extent of what his army is. So a mid-game push with a large number of Hydralisks can do quite a bit of damage. So, you're going to be seeing Maker Starcraft dropping down his Investigation Pit. Probably going to be seeing a Hive coming up off of that, which means we might be seeing an Ultralisk follow-up to this. We could also be seeing Broodlord follow-up, which isn't necessarily as popular. It has been used before. I have seen it a few times, but mostly in TVZ, not necessarily in PVZ. I would like to see him take a 4th base behind this attack, or after this attack, or sometime during that, so that he's able to get a little bit of an economy up as he does a little bit of damage with his opponent. Meanwhile, we're having the Queen a little bit in danger here from a couple of Phoenixes. However, we're going to be seeing the mid-game push coming up in the natural from Slaughterhouse. Baker Starcraft going to be doing a lot of damage here. Going to be able to get the Cybernetic score and quite a few other units here. A couple of sentries are going to be up on the map, but not really enough to be able to stop this force. Definitely would like to have seen the forces come out, blocking them off in the first place, and then a photon overcharge to help that out as well. However, with the addition of the Void Rays, that should be pretty much enough to be able to take out the rest of the army. Now, what I was just from the Zerg player at this point is I would love to see him try to get Zerglings into the natural and the main base and try to weaken his opponent's economy, and B, start moving up into Hydralisk production. A large number of Hydralisks, because that is one of the best things you can do against Void Rays, and definitely take the 4th base and Hydralisks, and even to a certain extent I would also like to be seeing Corruptors come out, but definitely would love to see a couple of really good Zergling run bys, because we aren't going to be seeing the Protoss player remaking his wall quite so quickly. So if he can get 20-30 Zerglings up into the natural expansion, you can get maybe an Nexus, or you can get in the main base and get some economic damage done in the mineral line. Maybe snipe a pylon or two and stop the production, or something like that. Just would be a fun little thing, and it would also help a little bit of keeping his minerals down. So definitely would like to see the Hydralisk. I have seen this style been used before, where it's a Hydralisk and Queen army to be able to deal with a Void Race with some Infestors to back it up. That's probably would be able to work here, but there aren't really a critical mass of Void Rays. I definitely would suggest dropping a 4th base, start moving up. He does have the Infestation Pit up. Doesn't have his Hive. Would love to see him grab his Hive, start getting out his Pathogen Glands, just so that he's able to move into the Infestors and is able to deal with the Void Rays a little bit more effectively. I mean, I'm not saying that he doesn't need to get them right now, because it would be a good addition to his army, but definitely is going to be needing it, especially if we see Slaughterhouse going to go into carriers, which is exactly what it looks like he's probably going to do, unless it's going to be a 2-2 for the 2-2, which is also possible. Mothership Core going to be made at 17 minutes in the game. No 3rd burst yet out from the Protoss player. Is stuck onto 2 base, which is not a good position for him to be in. Meanwhile, Baker Starcraft is going to be positioning himself to move out across the map once again. I don't really think he has the number of Hydralisks right now to be able to do damage. However, he does have quite a bit of Zerglings that he might be able to do a little bit of damage with. Would love to see him move. He's going to be moving back home. Alright, so 4th and 3rd base will be greatly appreciated at this point for both players. A little bit high on the mineral count. Might be good to see Baker Starcraft grab a few macro hatches, just a little bit, to take care of that, make sure that keeps down. But once again, with a few Zerling run bys, he will be able to take care of that fairly efficiently. So we're going to be seeing the Mothership Core going to be transforming into the Mothership, folks. We're actually going to see the Mothership happen in Wings of Liberty, which is just insane. Completely insane. We do have that +1 armor coming out from our from our Protoss player at this point. Oh, that's structures. There we go. He's only on 1-1 right now compared to his opponent's 2-0. Still would like to see 3-1 come out. He's going to be going for that Hive upgrade. So definitely would like to see him start moving into a 4th base, especially as he's starting to get mined out in his main base. Definitely wouldn't be opposed to seeing him move into Infestors. He has quite a bit of Hydros in his army, which is always good to see. Meanwhile, our Protoss player is going to be continuing up with his Void Ray production. He's going to be going for a 3rd base up here in the gold region. However, here comes the Zerg units moving into the natural expansion, and not quite going to be able to get off what they need to get off. He's going to be falling back as opposed to taking the engagement directly, which is a little bit of a loss there. Would love to see him poke up into the goal just to make sure that third base isn't up right now, because that's always something good to check for. Also, wouldn't mind seeing him put a Zergling over here just to check for a third base as well. Because right now you want to be checking for the third base to know what your opponent is doing, if he's moving up into a big attack, or if he's wanting to macro up a little bit. But it looks like we're going to be seeing Slaughterhouse doing kind of both at the same time. BakerSC going to be kind of forced to take on the army here, but he does have Infestors coming out. Does he have Pathogen Glands finished up? I don't think so. So Infestors are going to be coming out without the energy. Here comes a major engagement. Zerg player going to be falling back as opposed to taking on the army, but he can't really afford to do that very much. Protest army is going to fall back here, deciding probably not safe to attack at this point in time. Fourth base up from BakerSC coming up. Slaughterhouse's third has been established up here at the gold base. Once again, wouldn't mind seeing our Zerg player kind of scout up, see what his opponent's doing, but that's perfectly fine. We are seeing continued void wave production from our Protoss player at this point. 3-2 for melee and missile attacks coming up from our Zerg player. Just has Pathogen Glands just about now finishing up, which means that the Infestors will be a little bit more potent when they come out from this point onwards. He does have enough time for them to be able to get a few fungal growths off before any sort of engagement starts to happen. Protoss player will be fine with taking fourth base, and is exactly what we're going to be seeing him do. Just need to be a little bit careful about the Zerg, especially with run-bys, which can be very, very prevalent if he's able to get a few run-bys into maybe the fourth base or the third base, or just get quite a bit of Zerglings in to your opponent's base, get a little bit of damage done, whether that be economically or production-wise or any of that stuff. Emergency +3 coming up for the air, or no, that's +2. Wow. 2 on the air coming up from our Protest player at this point, but looks like BakerSC money move out here. Not quite maxed out. Would love to see him max out a little bit and finish up maxing out before he moves out, as right now he's kind of dangerously close to supply with his opponent. Protest player is going to be moving up towards the gold base here, which is actually essentially mined out, while the Zerg player is going to be moving into the fourth base over here. Going to be denying that fairly efficiently, but the Void Rays will be getting the gold base back home. Protoss player is going to be the first one to fall back here, which is going to be interesting. We'll have to see exactly what happens here. Infestors are going to be able to get off fungal growths, and if they are, then the Hydralisks are just going to be able to get all that more damage. Actually not going to be taking on the engagement, which is kind of curious because he does have quite a bit to be able to take care of this. I'm not sure exactly why he's not. However, it looks like the Zerg is going to get tracked here, so the Void Rays are going to be forcing the engagement to happen. Oh no! BakerSC! Oh! Moving his units as opposed to A-moving, and going to lose a lot of units to that. However, he might be able to just clean this up with a few good fungal growths as well as those Hydralisks. But oh no, that's just a terrible thing to have happen. To be moving your units and accidentally forget to A-click and all of a sudden lose a lot of your army in the first little bit because of it. It's just an unfortunate position to be in. More Hydralisks are going to be added on here, but Void Ray production is going to be the continued key for our Protest player at this point. Not sure I necessarily agree with it. I might like to see him go up into... I feel like the Void Rays are not really helping him here. I think the best thing for him to do is start laying down his robotics facility, go up into his robotics bay, and start getting his Colossus out. I think that's going to be the best thing for him right now, considering that the Zerg army is going to be prepared, especially for the Void Rays, which means they have units like the Hydralisk and the Zergling and the Roach, which are all just so vulnerable to Colossus fire. So that would be what I would suggest. Go up onto Colossus production. As for BakerSC, keeping up onto the Hydralisk production and watching his opponent, seeing when his opponent is going to change tech, if he does change tech, knowing what his opponent is doing, is going to be really key to the matchup here. I wouldn't be opposed to seeing him drop down to 5th base back home, because more bases are always better as long as you're able to spend the minerals efficiently, of course. The Zerg army is going to be positioned to move out and get a little bit of damage done here, which might be able to do a little bit of damage here. There isn't a whole lot of Void Rays up here. The biggest problem is going to be, of course, the fact that they are cloaked and the fact that there's some mothership support there, but that's not really going to do a whole lot. A couple of Overseers are going to be morphed out to kind of help out here. A couple of good Falcon Growths are going to be going off and trapping down the Void Ray so that they're able to do quite as much damage. And suddenly, Zerg player taking a pretty decent advantage here. Could be putting another couple of Falcon Growths, but all of his units getting trapped behind. Falcon Growths are going to be going off. The armies of Slaughterhouse are getting, well, ironically slaughtered. And dropping down to below 100 supply. Baker StarCraft at 123. And this, guys, is probably going to do quite a bit of damage, if not just end the game here. Yeah. Jeez Louise. So, what can we learn from the matchup here, guys, as I adjust myself here in my squeaky chair? I'm sure you guys can't hear it, but it's squeaking a lot as I adjust myself there. But what can we learn from this game? Zerg player, definitely like his reaction to the Void Rays. It was very spot on. I think the biggest thing for you is working on your bank during the game. Money management being a very difficult thing for Zerg. I've said it before, and I will probably say it until the day that I drop dead casting. It's always a little bit more difficult for a Zerg player to be able to deal with their bank, especially in the low levels. This is a Gold League game, so I don't expect him to be on top of his macro. However, that is definitely something that I like suggesting to Zerg players, because it is a common trait among a lot of players that's what they have problems with. And towards the end of the game, definitely doing a little bit better at that. Another thing I like to point out from the Zerg side of things is most of the time as a Zerg player, especially in the ZVP matchup, when you move out past the 15 to 20 minute mark, you always want your army to be maxed out. Always want your army to be maxed out. Because Baker StarCraft moved out with like 169 to his opponent's 160, which is not exactly where you want to be. If he was at 200 supply, he would have been in a better position for the engagement. So definitely, that's one of the big things I think could help him out in this play. Besides that, composition was really good. Might be good to see additional bases. That's something that a lot of low-level players are not necessarily comfortable with, expanding past the 4th or 5th base, because they don't really know how to deal with the money that they have and all that stuff, and how to protect it and stuff like that. Looking over the Protester side of things, he definitely stayed on 2 base way too long. When he did take his 3rd and 4th bases, he sort of took them at the same time. Never really ended up getting saturated on them. I think it was really weird to see him go up into the double Stargate with Void Rays. And personally, I don't think Void Rays are a weird choice. My problem with his play was that as soon as he figured out his opponent was starting to counter him, he needed to transition out of the Void Rays and move into something that was a little bit better for against the composition that we saw from the Zerg player. So, like I suggested, going up into Colossus would have been a brilliant idea, because, guys, look at how much squishy light units there are in this army. So many. It's a Hydralisling based army, which means that Colossus will literally just shred it to pieces, and suddenly you're a step ahead of the Zerg. So definitely would have liked to see that better off of him. He was a little bit behind in upgrades, I believe, as well. Yeah, he was on 2-1, his opponent's 3-2, which is definitely going to make a difference as well. I think that's all that I have to evaluate for right now, guys. Real quickly here, a little bit of more information about not more information, more like a reminder for the tournament that is going to be coming up, guys. I am going to be hosting a tournament on the 28th of June. It is going to be the weekend of the 28th. It's probably going to be, my projection is that if it's an 8-man, it's probably going to be Friday and Saturday. If it's a 16-man, it might go into the weekend. We'll see what happens, folks. But I'd love to see everybody sign up. I'd love to see more people sign up. Because the last time we had an 8-man bracket. It was a lot of fun. I'd love to try to make it a 16. So if you have any interest in that, go take a look at the download link, or not the download link, my email below, which is how you're going to sign up. Down below I also said what you need for that league, the race you're going to be playing, and your character name of the character name of the character you're going to be playing, or the account name of the account you're going to be playing, because we aren't playing something like World of Warcraft. So, if you guys have any questions or concerns, please send a email over there. If you have your own games that you'd like to get casted, you can either upload them to Arcastit, which is where I'm getting my current replays, or you can send it to ZookaMan900@gmail.com, which I am going to be putting in the description below as usual. I believe that's everything else that I wanted to say to you guys. If there's anything you guys have to say, or comments, questions, anything, you can either email me or send me a comment in the comment box below. So I believe that's it, folks. I will let you know more information as I get it. Until then, this has been ZookaMan, and we'll see you on the next cast.